What was the first game you bought with your own money?
Ooh.
I can't think of mine. I'm trying to think of what it might have been because I was a big game renter when I was a kid. I would go to Blockbuster and rent
Yeah.
games.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Yeah. Blockbuster. I was there every week.
Yeah, and
I
so
rented a new game like every week.
yeah, and most of that was my mom's money, to be honest. But but there was occasions where I might use my money.
Right.
The first game I ever bought for myself, though, what's the only thing popping in my head is Final Fantasy VII, but I don't even know if that's true.
The first one I can remember is probably Halo.
Yeah,
That's probably the first one I can actually remember.
that is your most historic game. Like it's the game you recognize with the most in life. I think I've got our levels a little too high. Testing 1, 2. Turn myself down.
Do I need to be turned down?
Nope.
Good? Bad?
No.
All right,
I'm doing that to see how the levels. Yep, looks good. Looks good.
Okay. Live testing.
Yeah. So I think mine. I think it might have been Final Fantasy VII. One distinct thing I remember being a kid, and it was probably like my 13th birthday or something, and I don't know, my dad was just like feeling like some kind of way about me turning 13. Like he was just like really emotional about it, and I remember so my parents are separated, and I would spend like a week with my mom and then a week with my dad, and
Right.
at mom's house, TV is always on, playing video games, doesn't care if I go outside. She just doesn't want me to bother her, right? And but dad's house was like, no video games, go outside and play baseball or something, you know? And they never bought me a game console or video games or anything. And
Oh, wow.
there was this one birthday where my dad like took me out and he was just like, get whatever you want. No, just whatever, no price limit, whatever you want to get. And I remember being like I didn't want to abuse it. So like, I would be like, can I get this? And he'd be like, yeah, sure, we'll get it. And he bought it. And then like, like we go to like GameStop or something. And I'm like, well, can I get a game? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, all right. And I didn't even know what to get. And I got Legends of Dragoon. That was the game I remember we bought, and it was like $60, and the thing came with like 6 discs or something crazy.
Holy crap! Wow. Was that for PC?
No, it was for PlayStation, or it was probably for PlayStation. Yeah, if it was multiple discs, it was most likely for PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I remember my stepmom was like, "You bought him a game?" Because again, it was like you weren't allowed to play games in their house.
Right.
You bought him a video game, and my dad was like, he's growing up. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to buy him something. And I'm sure he bought me plenty of stuff after that. So it wasn't the last thing he ever bought me. But yeah, that's one that distinctly remembered. But I don't know if I remember exactly what I spent my money on. I don't know. I know I went through a phase buying the used games at GameStop. It might have been one of those, maybe.
Yeah, I bought a lot of those.
Yeah,
the used games at GameStop, but that they were definitely not my first game.
Yeah, that was like that was probably a little bit later. I don't know. But the question that originally popped in my head and then I just kind of converted it to a gaming question was the first CD you ever owned.
Oh, like a music CD.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
And I'm a little bit older than you, but I do feel like we're still close enough in age that you did the whole CD thing.
I had cassettes, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Maybe we're more similar than I thought. I might be just getting a different impression of you.
Well, my parents never really like upgraded things. So like I got a cassette player and that's what I had. So I had to buy cassettes or I made my own cassettes. So that was that. But CD, probably I was into country music. Well, I still like country music. I'm just a hillbilly, but whatever. I'd probably have to say one of Tim McGraw's CDs. Probably.
Oh man.
Probably. A very, very like basic.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Let me guess.
Wild.
Yours was like
Yeah.
some like headbanger.
It was like 7 seconds. Metallica. No. My first CD was the Space Jam soundtrack. Because
okay.
there's some bangers on that soundtrack, man.
Hey, that's legit.
All right, well, welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 13. 13. And this episode, we are live streaming over at Crowbar Kernel Panic on YouTube, but you can also find the episode after the fact, posted up there for on demand. You can send us an email at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me. And of course, you can join us on Discord at the Mintcast Discord. There'll be a link to it in the show notes. This week, we're going to be talking about top 5. Well, it's not really a top list. This is just a list of 5 games that we chose, so 10 total, that are Linux native games, no Proton required. Oddly enough, I think all mine are in Steam because the easiest way for me to kind of come up with this was to kind of backtrack my steps on Steam and see what I had purchased.
Right, that's exactly what I did. I did the same exact thing.
Yeah, so we're still kind of Steam connected, even though it's not Proton. But in any case, we'll go over those. But before we do, I had 2 crazy things happen to me this week, and maybe they're connected. Maybe it's the drugs from one led into the other. But I actually had to have a tooth. I had to have a tooth pulled this week, and I don't know.
I can imagine,
dude. It felt terrible. I didn't feel a thing, but I'm just like really queasy about like, dude. It was just like,
You're not a dentist person. You're not a dentist person.
Yeah, like the dentist grabbed onto this thing and
But you were awake for this. Okay.
Yeah, I was awake. I was all numbed up. I couldn't feel anything.
It up, yeah.
But just knowing that like he's pulling so hard that like my whole head is like going with it, like just that idea, like I felt nauseous. Like it was like, oh man, it was like the worst feeling.
It was just like the experience, not even the feeling.
Right.
Just the experience made you like,
dude.
Wow.
Exactly. Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. but I don't know if it's the drugs from that or what, but like I have been playing nonstop MMOs. I've played like every MMO that I know about.
The drugs made me do it, man. The drugs made me do it.
Yeah. I've been playing like every MMO that is like known to man. For one thing, Albion has a really good mount this month. So they do this thing every month where it is, if you have I forget what they call their premium or whatever, it might just be called premium, but if you have whatever their premium account is, then every month they do a thing where if you log in and you do enough activities, you get points for it. And then after you get 600,000 points, you can get whatever the special item is for that month. And this month is this really cool, like white eagle mount. I've been logging in, getting that. I'm at 350,000 of 600,000 points, and you can basically get 50,000 a day. So I should be able to wrap it up.
That's not bad. Yeah.
But if I don't get it before the end of the month, then you lose your chance. Yeah, that's it.
Dude, I remember that on RuneScape they had like holiday stuff where like you got like Santa hat or like something like that if you did this holiday quest thing.
Yeah,
it sounds exactly kind of like that.
Yeah, I imagine it is. I mean, I wonder what. So it's kind of like you're getting a benefit for having premium, but it's not like they're just handing you the mount for having premium. Like there's still like some there's a
level of grinding you have to do. I guess.
Now that being said, I'm basically just logging in every day, doing my like farm area that I always talk about, and then doing what's up, Dale? I see we got Dale in the chat. I'm basically logging in, doing like my farm area, and then I go and I do like one dungeon, and then I've got my 50,000 points, and so it's not like a huge grind. But it is like encouraging me to log in because I've always liked Albion, but I also feel like because I'm not a big PvPer, like
Right.
I get to a point where I'm just like I don't know what I don't know what
Yeah,
to
that's my
do.
thing. That's why I can't get into Albion because I am not a PvP. I don't like
Yeah,
PvP at all. I'm just like I guess maybe if I was with friends, like a bunch of friends, and we were all together, I would do it. But if it's just me, I can't get into it.
no, I have. Like I said, I've played every MMO out there, and I've never been into PvP. It's just never been my thing. I've never enjoyed the game in that way. I don't want to kill other players. I want to kill giant dragons.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
it's just never, it's never appealed to me. And Albion has a
Right.
huge community for that. They do have it. It's mostly, well, I mean, that's it. The game is designed to cultivate that community, or otherwise they wouldn't have that community, like whether
Right.
they intended it or not. But there are PvE things to do in Albion, but it's just like it's mostly a PvP like sandbox
Yeah.
MMO. Um,
If it
but
was like 50-50, I'd definitely play it.
yeah, really, what's funny is it's made me more interested in things like New World that's coming out by Amazon. Um,
Okay.
it's a similar thing where
Wait. Is that the one that was killing graphics cards?
yeah, it is. They've
I'm a little afraid to play that one.
I know. Surely that's fixed now. Surely that's fixed. But you know what? They probably fixed it for Windows, and you run it on
Oh, crap.
Proton, it's gonna wipe your graphics card. Oh man, that's a little bit
Dude, that'd
risky.
be so bad.
You better check Proton DB before you run that
Why
one.
did I ever install Linux?
Yeah, don't be the first guy commenting on that on Proton DB for sure. But because of playing Albion and kind of learning like how to interact in a world like that that's like all PvP, and knowing that like okay, there's certain zones that you can go into, certain zones you can't.
Right.
You just have, if you can lose your gear whenever you die, then gear's not the most important thing, or make sure that you only wear gear that you can recreate or whatever.
Right.
Even though I'm not interested in that aspect of it, it's kind of made me more willing to try things out like New World when it comes out, because I feel like New World is similar to that, where it's heavily PvP influenced, but it does have PvE. I just don't know. Albion is so cheap versus Albion's free to play now actually, but even
Yeah.
whenever I purchased it, it wasn't nearly as expensive as New World's going to be, and I don't see myself buying a game to only play 50% of it. I've also been playing. Did you ever hear about Bless Online?
Nope, I have not.
So there was a game called Bless Online that came out, and it was so terrible. It was so terrible that that basically they gave everybody like refunds, and then they took it off of Steam. Well, it's back. It's back, baby.
Back.
But now it's Blessed Unleashed, and it like came out on console first, and then it was released for PC. So it's basically a port of the console version of the game for PC.
Hmm.
And the game was expected to be terrible just because of the history of what happened with the original Bless. And it's got like mixed reviews, and so there's a lot of people now kind of saying like, well, hey, there's people out there that like it, so maybe it's not as awful as we thought. So I thought I would try it out. It's free to play, so I didn't have to buy it or anything. So I thought I would try to install it and see how it ran. Basically, where I'm at is I can install the game, I can log into the game, everything looks beautiful, but it doesn't seem to like register my character with the server. It tells me that my login authentication failed, and it just will log me back out to the login screen.
That's a pain.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a Linux thing or if it could just be an issue that they're having or that they were having whenever I tried it last night. I don't know, but
Is this a Proton game or is this
it's running on
native
Proton.
Linux?
It is running on Proton.
Yeah, that could be definitely.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if it's the anti-cheat thing like we were talking about last week. Yeah.
That definitely could be it because Valve is notorious for having issues with the anti-cheat stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's got something to do with that or what, but yeah, I can't even get logged in and play the game. the other two MMOs that I've been playing, Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings Online.
I gotta play that one.
Why the heck am I playing Lord of the Rings Online? I mean,
I just want to play it because I hear you talking about it. I just I need to experience it.
It's just I don't know. I everybody's been talking about WoW Classic lately, and so I just kind of got the hankering to like play like a really old kind of grindy MMO, and I really didn't want to start my WoW subscription back up. I don't want to, I don't want to do the whole WoW Classic thing. So then I started thinking about, well, what about like those like WoW like classic alternative servers? There's some kind of interesting ones of those that I thought about maybe trying out.
Right.
But it's just so like you've got to jump through the hurdles of getting it to run, even on Windows to run like an alternative server, and then you're trying to do that also on top of Linux and trying to use like Lutris or something.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it's worth it. And plus, I just I'm already WoW's dead to me. I'm burnt out on WoW. I've done that thing. And so I thought, well, what if I try Lord of the Rings Online? It's still going strong. They still have a fan base. Like there's still people that play and love that game. It's not a huge fan base. It's a small community, but the people that play it and love it are like really into it. And so I was just thinking, if I'm trying to play like some old crafty graphics MMO, why not try Lord of the Rings Online for the first time? So I did. I installed it. They have progression servers. They have like a server that is like, say you want to level faster, they've got a server for that. Say you want to level slower, have a little bit harder of an experience, they got a server for that. But you have to.
Can you spin up your own server, or is this their servers?
It's just their server.
Okay.
They have like but you got to have a premium. You got to have whatever their premium account is to do the progression servers. So I
got you.
So I just joined a normal server. And I'm just playing the game like vanilla as it was, and it's not very good. I'm sure that it was great at whenever it came out. It feels very similar to playing classic WoW. It's that sort of thing where it's just like
it definitely looks like it.
Yeah. I think it has slightly better graphics than classic WoW, and similar to the way World of Warcraft is, even in mainstream World of Warcraft, it's like the graphics get better as you get into the newer expansions, which I'm still in the early expansion. I haven't played any of the new stuff, but from the videos I've seen online, it does get better. But like, your character model never changes. The animation of your character never changes. And that stuff looks really dated. So yeah, it's not very good looking. It runs perfect on Linux.
The way it looks, it should run perfect.
Right. There's no compatibility.
It should run on a Raspberry Pi.
But it is really complicated and like, has like a complex, grindy system to it, which was the same, thing that people, are nostalgic about classic WoW. And so it kind of does scratch that itch in a way. But just like whenever I tried out classic WoW, it is like you log in and you say, oh, this is really neat. And you do it for a little while. And then at a certain point you turn a quest and you go to pick up the next quest and you're just like, I can't do this 1 minute longer, and you log out. I mean, that's exactly the way the way the experience is.
I know exactly what you feel like when it comes to that. Yeah. It's just like, I just, why am I doing this? Just why? Just
right. The last thing I want to point out about both Lord of the Rings Online and Final Fantasy 14 is that in the past I've talked about how installing Final Fantasy 14 is difficult because you have to go and change a bunch of things. Glorious Eggroll Proton. If you use the Glorious Eggroll Proton, you don't have to do that. And there was also some issues with the Lord of the Rings install that were completely taken care of with the Glorious Eggroll Proton. So
that's good to know for me if I'm going to try the Lord of the Rings.
yeah, something to keep in mind for sure. I think from now on I'll probably be running his Proton. It's funny because I know that he's a gamer, and so like I feel like the games that you can almost tell what games he plays by
Yeah,
what's been
right.
improved in his Proton version. It's like, okay, so he's playing Final Fantasy 14 right now. I can tell that because there's updates to that. What have you been doing, man?
Well, I actually have been trying out the Steam in-home streaming,
Okay.
and that's it's a mixed bag as far as I'm concerned. I ran it on my Windows PC. I just loaded up Windows and I had that going, and I put well, first I tried like Ubuntu and Linux Mint and all this stuff with the flat pack of the Steam what is it, Steam Link app or whatever it is.
Right.
Um
They've changed the
and
name a few times now, but yeah.
yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
But so I tried the flat pack on, let's see, yeah, Ubuntu, Mint, Fedora. I think that's it. And it was just didn't want to work. Like, you could play the game, but it wasn't worth playing. Basically, it was so choppy and the grainy looking, and I was just like, I was about ready to throw in the towel. And then I remembered hearing about Chimera OS. And that's basically a respin of Steam OS. And so I threw that on my HP Stream, which is what I've been using. It's, low end, perfect for what this is doing. What you need this to do, just stream. You don't have to have any horsepower. Threw that on there, works perfectly. Everything works. The sound comes through. It's smooth. It looks like I'm pretty much playing the game on my computer. I couldn't believe it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I'm thoroughly impressed. I'm so impressed that I bought a controller. The first controller that I bought for myself in 10 years.
So I tried this recently, and I was having a lot of trouble with it, and I assumed it was something with my router. I didn't think about trying the Chimera OS thing. Maybe I need to give that a shot.
Give that a shot. Trust me. Now there is a limit to the specs of the device you install it on. So I tried installing it on. I have a little box that it's got 2 gigs of RAM. It's got a quad core Intel. What's the low end Intel? Really low end. Atom.
i3?
Atom.
Oh, Atom.
No,
okay.
Atom. Like, it's really low end. Like, it's like Raspberry Pi style. And it worked, but it was very choppy. So then I put it on my HP Stream, which has dual core Pentium and a 4 gigs of RAM, and then that works like pretty much bare minimum of what you want. Like, the UI is very slow and everything, and it's kind of, you notice it. You definitely notice it, but when you stream games, it works fine. You wouldn't even have a problem.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I need to give that a shot.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need to try it out. I was trying to like set up something so that I could play games with my son on the TV with controllers. Because
this will definitely work.
Yeah,
I guarantee it.
I need to give it a shot because we did the whole RetroPie thing. But I guess he's still too young to even really know. Like, he didn't really understand what was going on,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I need to try it again. But yeah, I never could get the Steam Link thing to work because I assumed it was my router, because at our old house it worked perfect. And the only thing difference between there and here is I have a different router now. It's even the same internet.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would just give it a shot just to see. I mean, it could be a router, and now that you mentioned that definitely could be something, maybe in the QoS settings or whatever. But yeah, definitely give this one a shot. It works great. The only problem I had at all was the HDMI sound does not work, and I think that has to do with, to be honest, I don't know if it has to do with the hardware or not, because it didn't work on either of the devices I used. So I just connected to Bluetooth to my my sound bar, and that worked perfectly.
Now, without trying Chimera OS, I was able to get sound through HDMI I was just running it from my laptop,
Okay.
HDMI to
Yeah.
TV. Well, now that I think back on it, maybe I don't know that I can confirm that. I might be misremembering that.
Yeah.
So what are you playing on your TV?
Well, let's see here. What did I play? The first thing I tried was what do I call it? Metro Exodus.
Yeah.
And that played fine. Nothing.
That's a good game for a controller too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, it is so hard to get used to the controller again. I haven't used the controller seriously in like oh man, a long time. Like it's okay for like hack and slash stuff because you just kind of run up and mash the A button. But
Right.
for shooters, oh man, it is so hard.
Yeah,
Just
I haven't
not
done
used
it.
to it.
I haven't done it in so long. I haven't done it in forever.
But it works so good that I want to get back into it. That's like my whole thing. Like I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. I played that. Let me actually look here. I played Resident Evil. I played that. That worked perfectly.
The remake?
The remake, the original Resident Evil remake.
Man, even that worked perfectly.
Yeah, but it was on Windows.
Oh, because you were running
through the streaming. Right. So that was the catch with that. Man, what else did I play? Oh, I played a couple of things. But anyway, yeah, it worked good. Oh, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Yes, it's a mouthful, but it's one of my favorite old school games. That did not work at all with the controller. That doesn't have controller support. Even though it says partial controller support, it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
I might be able to fix it.
By partial, they mean none.
Yeah, partial.
You can pause using a controller.
Yeah, that's literally all you could do. You could pause and you could get out of the game.
That's hilarious.
So, yep. So yeah, definitely that was great. I'm enjoying that. Yeah, like I said, I've also been playing Metro Exodus. That's yeah, a spoiler alert here. It's still really good. Like it's not letting me down, which is good. Like by now in a game I should have stopped playing, like wanting to play, I should say.
Spoiler alert.
So
spoiler alert. I have not played it since we last spoke about it.
That's not a spoiler. I knew it.
It hasn't been on
Albion, you Albion addict.
Yeah, I've been playing too much Lord of the Rings online.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings online. Oh, man.
I don't have time for a game made in the last 10 years. What are you, crazy? I'm out here playing the classics.
Oh man. Yeah, so that game. As far as gaming goes, that's all I really have done. Yeah, I installed Pop OS.
That's yeah. I just saw that
recent thing I did.
I just saw that in the show notes, and I did too. Well, you can tell by my desktop background probably, because this is one of the default backgrounds. That's one of the things I've always felt with Pop OS is like it's one of the only distros that I would actually use the default background. Pop OS and Ubuntu Studio. I haven't used Ubuntu Studio in years, but but I know that in the past when I used to use it, I really liked their photos.
Okay.
Yeah, but Pop OS has great desktop wallpapers.
Yeah, they do. They do. I'm actually using a default too. I'm using the world one, which is really cool.
Yeah, I installed it as well. It's kind of funny that we didn't coordinate a distro review. Like we weren't.
Yeah, the last time we said we were going to install Fedora, and then I was like, oh wait, the guy wanted us to try Pop OS. So I'm like, oh, I'll give it a shot.
I think it's worth us but let's use it for a while and then do a review on it.
Yeah, definitely not like the 1 week or 2 week thing we've been doing.
Yeah, the thing about I had already been using it on my laptop for a long time, but my laptop just plays Netflix. I don't really use it for anything, like nothing at all, hardly.
Instead of the Steam machine, it's the Stream machine.
but I kind of do have a story about why I switched. Even before you and I discussed it, was I told you I was going to switch back to Fedora after we recorded our last episode, and And I did, and I do love Fedora. Like, I think my review still stands. Everything I said was true. Like, I love the look of it. I love GNOME 40. I love everything about it except for Pipewire. I'm just not ready to use Pipewire. I do too much stuff with audio, and the programs that I use for whatever reason are not, like, I try to use DaVinci
There needs
Resolve.
to be more documentation.
Yeah, I just don't. I think it's just too early. Like, DaVinci Resolve, like, wouldn't recognize my Pipewire feed. I couldn't get any audio to work.
Right.
I mean, Kden Live worked great, and so it's not unusable.
Right.
It just, for whatever reason, was like hitting with my workflow. You know, my USB audio interface, the Zoom H6 recorder that I use. It was just hit or miss. Sometimes I would turn it on and it would get recognized and everything would work fine. Sometimes I would turn it on and it just wouldn't work, or I would be talking like really deep and slow because it was on the wrong bit rate. And so yeah, I think they're doing great things, and I still think it's a good distro, but I don't think it doesn't work for my purpose, because I do a lot of audio. I can't be experimenting with some experimental audio service. So
let me give you the installment approach to that. Just use Audacity.
Yeah.
Stop using that proprietary crap.
So
meanwhile, we're on Discord.
Right. Yeah. And Audacity's kind of questionable now too.
Oh yeah, it's true.
But so I just wanted to install something that was like really, you know, I don't want to say generic, but just like it's not on like the bleeding edge of anything. I don't want a rolling distro. I don't want to go back to another Arch distro. I just wanted something that I just felt like I could just install it and run with it. And what happened was, I was helping a friend of mine who was given a really cool opportunity to, I don't want to talk about it. I will talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it until everything's cut like all the way through, because I don't want to mess it up for him. But he was given an opportunity to start editing a really popular podcast that he's been a fan of for a long time. And while he was kind of comfortable doing it on his own, he really just kind of wanted somebody like, because it's the co-host of my other podcast, and I've always edited all those episodes. So he kind of wanted to see how I did it. And so he came over and I said, oh yeah, I'll help you do the first couple ones. And we tried to do it together on Fedora, and Audacity kept crashing every time I would try to play it back. I couldn't hear anything. And it was just like, instead of trying to, I could probably mess with this and get it to work. Let's just go get my laptop and use my laptop. And so we were using some old, no longer supported version of Pop OS, and we edited all the files on there, like literally sitting on my desk with my keyboard pushed back as Fedora is up on the screen behind it, like
freaking out, giving errors.
Yeah, giving constant errors every time you try to use an audio device. So yeah, I don't know. I love the fact that they switched to GNOME 40, but I don't know. Maybe Pipewire is still too soon. But then again, it's kind of like Ubuntu and Unity. Like, will it ever get there if somebody doesn't, kind of make that leap?
Yep.
So
I agree with you there. Yeah, it's not for everyone, I can tell you that. I mean, it worked okay for me, but I don't do any special, anything. I just load up my stuff and that's it.
I think a lot of my trouble is because I'm using this audio interface. I think if I wasn't using this audio, I mean, because I even use it when I'm editing, because my headphones run to the audio interface. And and I think if I wasn't using that, it would be a lot different. But for whatever reason, this thing just does not like, just doesn't like Pipewire.
Yep.
But this episode is not a doubleheader distro review. It is 5, maybe 10, depending on how you look at it. 10 Linux native games. I thought we should go back and forth, right? And so I'll do one, you do one, back and forth.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Who wants to go first? Should we roll for it?
We got dice.
I had Dungeons and Dragons.
But I got something.
Yeah, I was gonna say I left all my dice downstairs, but I do have a 20-sided die here. So you tell me if you want odds or evens.
All right, I'll do evens.
All right. 17. It's odds, baby.
All right.
All right. So my number one. It's not in any particular order. I just this is just games that for whatever reason I thought were important to talk about on this episode. My number one game on my list is the very first Linux game I ever bought on Steam. So a lot of the first games I bought on Steam were Valve games, and they coincidentally became Linux native whenever Source was ported to Linux. And so I didn't buy those natively as Linux games, and I'm not sure which came first, either this game or Valve made that transition. I'm not sure.
Chicken or the egg?
Right. So the first game that I purchased, because it was made for Linux and I wanted to support the publisher, was Asura Vengeance Edition. Which I'm going to find it in Steam real quick. But I heard about this on a podcast. They were all excited that there was a company that had made a game released on Steam for Linux users, and I was excited about it also, and so I went and picked it up. I have barely played this game at all. I basically, even at the time, only bought it because of that reason. I wanted to support a Linux developer. But it's like a Diablo-esque game. It's a very simple version of Diablo. It's like all the core mechanics of Diablo boiled down to just this just this small game. And it's really easy to jump into and play. It's got kind of a simple system, but it's also one of those games that's really addicting, and you can just, before you know it, you're like, oh, I'll play one more level. I'll play one more level. I could do this one really quick, and then before you know it, it's like you sat down and played way longer than you intended, and the game's only $9.99. So yeah, it's still a good purchase, I think, for $10. I've played worse for $10. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's the name of the publisher is Ogrehead Studios. Ogrehead Studios. What's your number one? I'll try to look it up while when you bring it up.
All right. So basically, what I did with my list was I just took the games that I had in my Steam library, and I just filtered it down to Steam native games, and this is my 5/6 that I picked. So the first one was Metro Exodus, and probably definitely not my favorite game of all time, but from what games I have,
yeah,
it's definitely my favorite Linux native game right now.
Yeah, no, it's a really good one. It's one that I hear come up on a lot of lists. So I definitely think it was worth putting it on there.
Yeah, it's like I say, I'm mostly a AAA gamer. Like, I just like the graphics, I like the realism. That's just how I am. I mean, it's not that I don't like games that are like, kiddie or have different kind of graphics, shaders and stuff. That doesn't bother me. I like those games. It's just, I don't know. There's something about the realism of some of the games is just amazing. Like that you can like look the ground and it just looks like you're literally there at wherever this place is. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's currently $29.99. And 4A Games was the developer. Yep. It was published by Deep Silver.
Yep.
Good choice. Very good choice. My number 2. All right, so this is kind of a weird one. I don't know, questioning whether this one's a good one to put on the list. My number 2 is, and it's because a lot of people play this, and I don't think they realize that it is available for Linux. But that is Tabletop Simulator. Tabletop Simulator it's a game where you can play tabletop games and card games in this like virtual tabletop. I mean, it's exactly what the title of the game says. It simulates a tabletop game. And they have every board game you can think of. There's people that just make custom games for it. Actually, I have a friend that makes custom card games. He's making a Star Trek and Star Wars card game based on the rule set. Cool. Yeah, he basically took the Lord of the Rings living card game. He took those rules and those cards, and he's adapting it to the universe of Star Wars and Star Trek. And he's come up with these like elaborate missions and stuff. And he's working on another game that's like completely his IP. And he's doing all this it will only, well, I mean, maybe if he strikes it rich, he can get it printed or whatever. But for all we know, it'll only ever be available on Tabletop Simulator. But there's a lot of games and communities of people that just strictly use Tabletop Simulator. I know that there's card games that I actually own the physical game, but it's just easier for me to spin up, without having to make a mess in my house. It's just easier for me to spin up the game on Tabletop Simulator. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it's available, on Linux. And the way it works is it's $19.99 to buy the game, and then you have access to everything that is in what they call the workshop for free. And in the workshop is all the like user made and unofficial and some official. There's a few instances of official versions of games on there, so you get a lot for that $20.
I mean, that sounds like a great deal to me. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, no, it really is. It works out really good.
Now, I just have one question about this. When you get the games on there, the card games or whatever tabletop games you buy, do you like download them to your computer and play them in the simulator, or is it like a thing where it works with the server online and it gets the assets from there?
You can do both.
Okay.
So you can join run a server, you can join somebody else's server, and you can also save a copy of somebody's game. So if you're hosting a game of, for example, there was a game called Arkham Horror, which is it's a card game, and there was a really good version of the game that everybody used, and it kind of like became like a community, like, everybody in the Arkham Horror community, which I've never really been a part of, but I just know it from afar. They all used this one mod, and then it just disappeared. The people that made the mod took it down for whatever reason. I think there's rumor that they were asked to take it down because it was like too good, like people were like, why would you ever buy the physical copy of the game when you can just play this? I don't know if that's true, because I know there's other games by that same company that are on Tabletop Simulator and are just as good. It could just be that the mod just didn't have time to do it anymore and he took it down. But for that reason, people save copies of other people's games on their PC so that they can have a copy of it should something like that ever happen.
That's cool.
Matter of fact, I have a copy of that Arkham Horror mod because somebody I knew had saved a copy, and then whenever it disappeared, he gave me a copy of his copy, and that whole
like a backup for him.
Yeah.
When his computer crashes, just come to you and say, "Hey, you got that mod I let you borrow?"
All right, what's your number 2?
All right, so I grappled with this one, but I think BioShock Infinite came in at my number 2. I love the BioShock series, and the only reason I didn't include the other ones is because the other ones aren't native to Linux, except for the remakes or whatever they're called. They're native to Linux, but the originals aren't. So I just included Infinite because it was native Linux, and it's the only one I have that's native Linux, and it's awesome. I love BioShock Infinite.
BioShock has broken my Steam.
Oh no.
I tried to pull up the store page, and because I had to do the age selector, it like freaked out. I've only ever played the first BioShock.
Yeah, like the first 2 are like super creepy.
Yeah.
Like you're in this like underwater world and all this stuff, and you got like these zombie type things that are coming at you, and then you got the big I forget what they're called, like big daddies or something like that. The big monsters that have the screw for the one hand that can stab you and all that crap. And then you got BioShock Infinite, where you're in this like really vibrant and colorful world. I mean, it's really cool, the shading they used and the textures for this world. I mean, it's like a steampunk world kind of like that you're in.
Yeah.
And there's this woman that you're trying to help the whole game through, and you're kind of trying to figure out what her story is and why you're there and this whole kind of thing. It's definitely one of my favorite games of all time, probably. I'd say BioShock, the series, I should say, not just this one in particular. I can't really pick one because they're all good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I from what I played of the first one, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It was actually I had it on Windows. I've never played any of
Yeah,
these on Linux.
that's where I played these first, and then I got the Linux versions. Well, I don't have the Linux version of the other ones yet, but one day when it's on sale, I'll get the other ones. So yeah, so we're on the 3, right?
Yep, number 3. My number 3 is a little bit of a joke entry. Oh, that sounds bad. Now it sounds like I'm. It sounds like, but all right. But if you ever play the game or watch anybody play it, you'll know what I mean. But this really represents the history of trying to play MMOs on Linux, and then the very few of them that were like designed for Linux. I mean, um, there was Ragnum. What do we say? It was Champions of Ragnum Online.
Yep.
Was one that was not popular at all, but Linux gamers knew it because if you did any Google searches for like World of Warcraft competitor on Linux or whatever, then you would come up with this game. And it was terrible. It's since been like sold and purchased by another company. I think it's like owned by a French company now. I don't know that it's even the same game that it was. But there was one that was a early Kickstarter game that everybody, this is one of the first Kickstarters I remember people like really getting like behind and like and just excited for it to come out. And it happened to be also available on Linux on all platforms. And that is Shroud of the Avatar. And the reason I giggle is because if you ever watch this game played, it is just super cumbersome, and
it looks kind of crazy.
It's notorious for like crashing because the graphics and stuff. If you this game was oh man, the release date's 2018, but that's because it was in like early access forever. It was in early access for such a long time. And if you logged into this game and put it on full graphics, I don't care what machine you're running it on, it will crash. It's not gonna make it. But I've always had this really weird, so it's got mixed reviews, and that's kind of like where I've always had this like weird I'm compelled to play this game partially because of the fact that it was just an early like, man, we're gonna make an MMO, we're gonna be completely 100% available on Linux. And so for that reason, like I've always kind of wanted to give it a shot, and I've logged in and created a character a few times. But after, it's not like a normal MMO where like you pick up a quest and then, okay, here's what you do on this quest, here's where you go. No, it's not one of those things. It's like one of these things where it's like you talk to somebody and you read the dialogue and they mention something going on in this mountain to the east. And so
you go to the mountain.
Yeah, so you quit talking to that person and then you walk away from them and you're like, okay, where was it supposed to go again? What was that? What was the deal with that?
Mountain. There's no like quest log.
It was like a lake in the west. Like, what was I supposed to go? Like yeah, it's so it's so hardcore, man. Like it's like really in depth.
Wow, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
I've never played a game that's that like intense.
Maybe
like you got to remember.
I feel like we should play it. I think it's free to play.
I think so. It looks like it is.
It is. It's free to play. If it's not, do not buy it. If it's free to play, definitely download it and give it a shot just to see what it's like.
If you have to pay money for it, do not buy it.
Yeah. So this entry in my list is for Shroud of the Avatar, but it's also just representing the years of being an MMO gamer and trying to install things on Ubuntu and Fedora that just like would never work. And so I appreciate the fact that Shroud of the Avatar, I was going to say made it easy. I still don't know that they made it easy, but they made it available.
They tried.
So what's your number 3?
All right. So number 3. This is the one where I was debating between 2 and 3. I wasn't sure which one to put this under, but number 3 for me, I decided was Borderlands 2. Now, this game, I really like this game, and one of the main reasons I really like this game is because my friend and I play it a lot, and well, we used to, and it kind of was like our time together since he moved away. So that's really, I mean, I don't know. It's just it's a different kind of game. Like it's like an RPG that's also a shooter, which is like something I've never really experienced before this game. Well, before Borderlands, but Borderlands 2 is just a way better version of Borderlands.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
have this game, but I've actually never played it past the like introduction.
it's really good. Like the story is really good in this game. Like if you get a chance to actually sit down and like play through the story, it's really good.
I did play the first Borderlands with some friends, and whenever you said that, whenever you were talking about you and your friend playing this game and that being kind of your memory of it, it made me think back to, and I didn't put it in my list, although we did discuss it before the show, is Left 4 Dead. I had a group of friends that I played Left 4 Dead with. We also played the first Borderlands together, at like LAN parties, and so
Right. Yep.
not like one person owned a copy of Borderlands and everybody else played the game. But yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot of games like that, for everybody, but where your experience with the people you played the game with is like what is like the real value of the
Right.
game for you. I mean, that's basically my only attraction to WoW is that, it's because I had a time
Right.
period in my life where like I had this connection to people that I played the game with, and that's really
Right.
what made the experience for me. And I think that that's something that modern games are not necessarily like I think that's something that is not encouraged in a lot of newer games. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of online play, but it's like you're playing online with random people. There's not much reason to
Yeah.
have
It's
like a
not.
group where
Yeah. It's
yeah.
not like meaningful,
Mhm.
as meaningful, I should say.
Yeah, no, I remember me and one particular person, like we worked at Sonic together, and it would be like the whole time, I'd be flipping burgers and we'd be talking about, man, when we get off work, we're going to run that dungeon tonight, and like we're going to do this and that, like that just doesn't, to me,
Yeah,
I don't,
that doesn't happen anymore.
yeah, I don't,
Not that I can remember.
hmm. You know what's funny is, games like Valheim might encourage that type of thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Definitely a game like Valheim could easily do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's anyway. I'm going off on a philosophical gaming tangent here. We'll save it for another episode.
Getting all emotional.
Number 4 is the next game. Why don't you know what? We're going to change up the order. Why don't you do number 4? Because my number 4 is connected to yours. So
Okay.
why don't you do number 4?
No, that's good. My number 4 would be Half-Life 2. Now, you mentioned Black Mesa last time.
Yes.
And I
Very
would have to say that if I owned Black Mesa, that would be in this position, because I think that is much better than Half-Life 2. Like I just the nostalgia of Half-Life, the original game, and then the graphics on top of it, plus what they've added, is way better than Half-Life 2 for me. But since I don't own that game, I just put this game in its place, and Half-Life 2 is still really good. It's a really amazing game, and if you haven't played it, you definitely need to just go through it once.
Yeah. Half-Life 2 is, I love Half-Life, and like you said, Black Mesa is amazing. But Half-Life 2 and then Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Episode 2, these like those games for me was like what set me down the path of like, okay, I can switch from being a console gamer to a PC gamer, because they were,
that's true. Yep.
Yeah, it was like the first like really big story-driven game that I played on PC, because PC used to kind of be like, oh, if I want to play a story-driven game, I'll play something by Capcom on PlayStation. If I want to play a fun, like, oh, let's log into Duke Nukem and try to kill each other game, that's what PC was for. The Half-Life series was like the first like game where it was like, oh no, they can do story on PC as well, like, and so yeah, I love the Half-Life 2 universe. I'm glad that we kind of got to see a little bit of it kind of resurrect with Half-Life Alyx. I'm so close to spending $1,000 just because I want to play one game.
With the Valve Index.
Yeah.
I was looking at it too. Oh man, I was looking at it and I'm like, I did not have that money, and I will not have that money for a long time.
Man, the very first price drop on that thing. I don't care if they take $20 off. I'm going to buy that thing.
998. I got it.
But yeah, I've always loved. I love Half-Life 2. The first PC I ever built for myself. I didn't have a graphics card yet, and the only game I could play was Half-Life 2 until my graphics card came in the mail. It's just such a great game. And even today, whenever I took the screenshot, I try to take all of our own screenshots for the thumbnails that I make for YouTube. And when I took that screenshot for the Fedora episode, I logged into Half-Life: The Lost Coast, and just using the bolt gun and just to try to get a screenshot, like it just felt so right. Like those games hit home so hard, man. It's so good. And so my number 4 is Connected. And because you've never played it, you're not even sure how it connects.
I know.
But it's connected. It's connected in universe, but also in it's a Source Engine game. And I also just kind of thought we should, since we both picked a Source Engine game for number 4, to me, this slot kind of represents Counter-Strike, Left 4 Dead, Half-Life 2, all of those games that are made on the Source Engine that are completely Linux native. And run great, by the way. I mean, the Source Engine
never had a problem with any of them.
Yeah, and that's such a it's not only an old engine, but it's been Linux native for so long. I mean, that's why Black Mesa runs on. I doubt the creators of Black Mesa are just like huge Linux heads. They just made their game on Source, and so it happens to run on SteamOS. Although they might, because SteamOS. I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah.
But my pick of those games is Portal. I love Portal and Portal 2. I talked about it not too long ago, so I won't dive into it extremely deep. But the thing I love about the game is that on the surface level, it's a great game. On the surface level, it's an awesome puzzle game. It's fun to watch people that have never played it play it for the first time, because it is such a trip to, now you're thinking in portals, you know what I mean? Like it's such a trip to just see how the puzzles work. But even on a deep level, it's also a fantastic game. I mean, like there's like story woven in, and it's done in such a Valve way where it's like show don't tell. Like there's never a point where someone looks at the screen and explains the plot of the game. They just drop clues throughout the entire thing, and you put it together as you play it. And then Portal 2 is like way more involved in the storytelling. I mean, there's like characters, and it's more, driven by the story.
More like Half-Life.
Yeah. And then there is a connection, like I don't want to, it's been out for so long that there's not really a spoiler warning, but just, but
I never played it.
No, I'm not gonna reveal anything, because there's nothing to reveal. They never followed up on it. They never gave us Half-Life 3 or Portal 3, but there's a connection at the end of Portal 2 where, there's a connection even in Portal 1, but there's always these hints of like, is in the same universe? Yes, but how does it connect back to that story? And then there's like a kind of a big thing at the end of Portal 2 that like really kind of no, there's a thing at the end of Half-Life 2 Episode 2 that ties into something you find out in the middle of Portal 2.
Okay.
And so there's a connection between both games, and it could be this ultimate payoff that one day they give us that next game. Maybe it's not Half-Life or Portal. It's something new that connects both stories. You know what I mean?
I know this isn't going to happen, but wouldn't it be amazing if when the Steam Deck releases, they like release the third like Half-Life Portal?
I almost feel like I almost think that if the index had hit as hard as the Steam Deck will,
yeah,
I almost think that's what they were looking for. Like
maybe.
If the indexes were just flying off the shelf.
Because Alyx is definitely not Half-Life 3 or Portal 3 or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's something different.
From what I've seen of clips of it, and I have no idea, it could be a really short game, and it's not at all what I think it is. But from what I've seen of clips of it, it looks like another episode of Half-Life 2.
That's what I've gotten from it too. I've never played it either. I just watched videos.
And it's taking place. It's like a prequel, or it's like between two games or something.
Yep. That's what it is. Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, everything on Source Engine, I'm a fan of, but I think the Portal and the Half-Life games specifically are just
number
so
4
good.
for Bo. Everything on Source Engine.
Everything on Source Engine. Even Gary's Mod and all those. Yeah.
Gary's Mod, yep. Oh man.
All right, so my number 5 is boring. Our number 5s are both things we've talked about on the show, but my number 5 is Albion Online. Albion Online. We finally did it, boys. We finally did it. We have a native MMO. Even if it's a PvP driven MMO, I will give it a chance and I'll waste time in it just because it installs natively. Not only does it install natively, it's available in Steam. They have a native Linux installer. It has a Arch user repository. And we just found out today it's in the Pop Shop. It's literally,
that's amazing though.
It's literally a Linux native install game. It's in the, and if it's in the Pop Shop, it must be in the Ubuntu store. I would have to think it.
Oh yeah, it must be. Yeah. It's like Albion Online, Battle for Westnoth. Wait, what?
Yeah. And
how does that work?
It is legitimately a good MMO, and it's available on everything. Like it's available on Android, Linux, Mac, Windows.
It's like Skyrim. It's available on a toaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's available on every single thing. It's made in Unity, and it is a.
Oh, really? That's made in Unity?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, that's pretty impressive for Unity.
98% sure that's true. I'm
okay.
I'm almost 100% positive. The only reason why I think unless it changed, I know that when it was launched, that's what it was.
Okay.
And it has a really stylized like look to it, but it's one of these games where it's like all in the animation. Whenever you're in the world, it feels fluid, it feels real. Like I said, the only downside to it, but it's not really a downside. It's how the game was designed. It just,
right.
It just wasn't for me. But it is super PvP focused. That being said, there's still plenty to do, especially in the early stages of the game. You kind of grow out of it at a certain point, but in the early stages of the game, there's plenty to do where you never even have to interact with another player, but definitely not in a combat sort of way. And even after you get higher up in level, it's still not. It's not. You're not. It's not all of a sudden Dota or something. Like you're still playing a PvP a PvE MMO that just also has this PvP element to it. But yeah, the fact that it's like literally just like a native Linux install and it's in the Pop Store, like
and it's free to play, which is that's the best part about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I jumped on Albion whenever it was still in the early adoption phases. Like I bought it. I think I didn't jump in on the Kickstarter, but I picked it up whenever that you still had to purchase the game, and so I've got like an OG character, but yeah, it's crazy that it's a Linux native game. That's all I'm saying. Pre-Proton, just made for Linux.
Pre-Proton. That's how we judge things now. Was it before Proton?
And what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Valheim. Yep. So I really like this game. I don't play it a lot. I just don't have time. That's the thing. Like if I had a lot of time to just play games, I'd probably play that game a lot. Maybe even as much as Metro Exodus, because it's kind of a game for me that I could just kind of relax in and just kind of like do my own thing, build my house, build this, whatever. Yeah, maybe I'll get to fighting the bosses or whatever eventually, but I'm just gonna kind of do my own thing.
Yeah,
and it's really fun. I really like that game.
I actually think I kind of think that my experience from it was kind of soiled a little bit by, like, I was constantly thinking about like, okay, I have to play it for the review. I have to play it. And I got to try to learn about it, and I've got to, try to do things in it. And so it kind of became a chore. And I didn't really just let myself like just do what I wanted to.
Enjoy
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, no, I think Valheim is another great game that it's just like they just, you know,
And they keep adding stuff to it. They just keep adding. It's like it's still in development.
and you know what the thing is too about both Albion and Valheim is that if you listen to gaming podcasts, like not Linux gaming podcasts,
Yeah.
I listen to MMO podcasts that talk about Albion and Valheim. That same podcast is talk about Valheim,
Yep.
and it's just a super popular, like well received, all around enjoyed, positive reviewed game. And
Yep.
the people reviewing it have no idea that there's this community of Linux gamers that, you know, are also interested in it because it's available. You know, like it's just a
Yep.
really good game. It's another good pick for sure. So
Yep.
there are some really good options out there. Even as the lines get more and more blurred because Proton is getting better and better.
Yep.
I think it's still important to support these people that are, you know, pushing for Linux availability even prior to Proton. So the world is only getting better. It is only getting better.
Yep.
Oh, I did want to do this too. You mentioned in here some bonus entries.
Yeah. Just one for me.
Okay. And I have it. Let me find it. All right, what is it?
It is Divinity Original Sin, the original one, not number 2, the original one.
Oh, I only have the second one. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, um, the reason why I kind of gave this a bonus and I didn't add it in my list, in place of another game is because the native Linux version doesn't work right. It's very choppy. It's just not. It either doesn't work at all, depending on the distro, or it works very, very badly.
Yeah.
Um, but the Proton version works great. There's no problem with the Proton version at all. So that's why I didn't include it, because it's technically a Linux native game, but I can't play it in Linux native mode.
Yeah, you know, you told me that you were having trouble getting it to run, and I was like, well, I don't know why. It runs fine for me, but I was thinking of
That's
Divinity
true too.
Original Sin 2. Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Which
That's the difference.
oh, and it's not Linux native. I'm running on Proton.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. So Original Sin 2
That's
is
how good Proton has gotten. You just don't even know you're playing on Proton.
I didn't even know. Yeah. So Divinity Original Sin 2 is not native, but Original Sin is. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
It might as well not be, though, if as far as I'm concerned. I've tried it on a lot of different distros and it just doesn't work.
I see. So if you're looking for a game like this that is Linux native, I talked about it last week, but that would be Pathfinder,
Right. Yep.
Kingmaker.
Yep.
It is, and it is the same style game. You're playing Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 versus whatever. You know, that game's so old it might be the same. I don't know. I don't know what Divinity Original Sin is. I don't know if it's 5e or older, but it is some version of Dungeons and Dragons. And that same company, it's not Linux native, but they also have the Baldur's Gate release.
Right. Yep.
But if we're looking at Linux specifics, I just wanted to point out some that I have in my library that I didn't put in the list just because I thought, you know, we kind of been talking about them a lot on the podcast, and I didn't want to really repeat it too much. But last epoch, I don't know how you say it. Very good Linux native small studio game. It currently is $34.99. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm still waiting for it to be on sale.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think this is one you wait for to be on sale because it's an early access. It doesn't have all the features yet,
Right.
but it is very good. It is very good. I think if you see it on sale for, you know, $29.99 maybe or $20, that's a steal.
Yeah, it would have to be at least 20 or less for me to just go and buy it. And not because it's a bad game or anything like that, just I'm cheap.
Yeah, and to me it doesn't feel right without having the multiplayer, and
Oh, it doesn't have multiplayer yet.
it's part of their roadmap.
Okay.
But it's not
Gotcha.
in yet. And I would say once that's in, then I think it probably is worth $35.
So what would this game more resemble then?
It's like a Path of Exile, Diablo style game. You're killing stuff to get better
And it's just-
gear.
You're just in the world with no other players. Like
right. It's
real
weird.
people.
It's weird because it has cross like game chat, so you can see other people chatting, but they're not actually in your instance of the game. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a little right now. It's kind of like in this in between stage, but that's because they're trying to put it in. And that's a good game. I think it's worth an honorable mention. Torchlight 2, another game worth an honorable mention. It's been Linux native for a while, but the thing about it is, I've heard from other people and I've experienced it myself that it runs better on Proton. I've been having issues with the Linux native install. I don't know. I thought I had more. Thought I had more shout outs than that, but I think we covered them. Yeah, Black Mesa, of course, but I think we covered everything. Yep.
There's a Torchlight 3. Interesting.
Yeah, is it out or I think it's I thought it was in development.
Maybe.
Or actually I thought they had lost I don't know. We should research that one.
Yeah, definitely.
They were doing like a more MMO style thing, and then I think they lost the developer or something. I don't know.
It says mostly negative and mixed.
I'd have to research it, but I remember hearing some news about that. All right, I think this was a fun episode, and I got to get out of here.
Yep,
it's been real. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, see ya.